Hey Redemption kids, my name is Pastor Robin. This is my good friend Planty, and today I want to talk to you about being made in God's image. Last week we talked about God creating the world, and on the sixth day, God created people. Right? God created people, and that's our lesson today. And we were made in God's image. Right? I've got a mirror in front of me, and the mirror shows me who I am, right? And being in God's image shows us about who God is and who we are in God. But first, I have an activity for you, okay? I want you to go into your house and see how many mirrors you're able to find in your house, okay? Bring a piece of paper and bring a pen. We're going to use both sides of the paper, but I want you to count how many mirrors you have in your house. So go ahead and press pause. If you need help, ask someone to come with you to count how many mirrors you have in your whole house so that you know. And then I want you to come back and bring a piece of paper with you because we're going to draw ourselves looking at a mirror. Okay, so if you have a small mirror, bring that with you as well so that you can see yourself and we can draw each other. So go ahead and do that. Press pause and we'll be right back. Well, I hope you found how many mirrors you have in your house. I bet no one has counted that before. So now you know how many mirrors you have in your house compared to maybe your parents for the first time. So great job, and I hope you have a piece of paper as well. And if you have a mirror close by, I want you to sit in front of a mirror and I want you to draw yourself. Okay, I want to draw yourself because a mirror shows who you are. It reveals your image. And we're going to talk about a little bit about more of that in our lesson today. And I did the same thing where I drew myself. I was sitting here for hours and hours and hours, and I finally drew myself, and this is what I have. That looks like me, doesn't it? Well, I didn't really draw this, I just printed it out, but I hope your image looks better than this. But are you ready for the lessons today? Right? Cool. I'll meet you over there. Well, I hope you're having fun so far. Keep the images, keep the drawings that you drew of yourself when looking at a mirror, and send it over to me. I would love to put it on my wall. You can send it to email or text it or drop it off. Your parents will figure it out. But I would love to have that, and so I can put it on my wall. And great job counting how many mirrors you have in your house. You can even tell your friends next time you see them. Maybe they counted how many mirrors they have in their house, and something that you know that maybe no one else knows. But a good job doing that. This brings us to our big picture question, and it's the same question we asked last week. Does anyone remember it? The question is, who is God? Can you say with me? Who is God? And anyone remember the answer of who is God? God is our creator and king. Can you say it with me? God is our creator and king. One more time. God is our creator and king. Where God made everything in the universe by speaking. He created everything from nothing. And only He has the power to rule over everything as King of the universe. And last week, we were at the very first story in the whole Bible. Does anyone remember the first story of the whole Bible? It starts with a G. If you said Genesis, that is absolutely correct. Where we were in Genesis chapter 1 and we learned that God created the world. He created light. He created the water and land. He created all the stars in the sky, and He even created all the plants, including Planty. He made animals in the oceans and in the land. And that's where we stopped last week. But God created two more things before he stopped creating. Does anyone know what or who that is? Does anyone know what God created next? Well, we'll find out soon. Today's story is called God Created People. God created people. And we'll be in Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Let me tell you a little bit about the story. Okay? On the 6th day of creation, right? This is on the 6th day. There's 5 days before that, obviously, and God created everything that we talked about. And now today we're on the 6th day. And on the 6th day of creation, God made people. God made people. And God said, let us make in our image. They will rule over the whole earth and all the creatures on the earth. And so God said, let us make man in our own image. And God took this dust from the ground and he made a body. And once he made the body, he breathed into it, and a man was formed, and the man became alive. And then God planted a garden in the land of Eden and put the man there. He made a man out of dust, and he breathed into it, and he put this man into a garden. And God told the man to work in the garden and take care of it. And God provided from the trees for the man to eat. And God provided a river to water the garden. And then God said, you may eat from any of the trees in the garden except for one. The garden had a tree in it called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Can you say it with me? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God warned the man, if you eat from that tree, you will die. And then God said, it's not good for the man to be alone. So God, you know what he did next? He decided to make a helper for the man. And God brought to the man the animals, right? Because he saw that the man was alone, so God brought to the man the animals. And the man gave names to all of the creatures. But none of the animals was a good helper for the man. So God made the man fall fast asleep. And he took one of the man's ribs and he created a woman. And when the man saw the woman, he was very happy. He said, this one at last, he said, is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. The woman was a perfect helper for the man. She was his wife. And the man's name was Adam, and his wife's name was Eve. But what was the man's name? Adam. And what was the wife's name? Eve. And God gave Adam and Eve good things. He put them in charge of the animals and provided everything they needed. Everything was perfect. And God looked at everything he had made and he said it was very good. And so on the 7th day of creation, God rested from his work. I love hearing this story. Right? Did you notice the difference between how God created humans and how he created everything else? Did you catch the difference? Right? When God created light and the seas and the land and the plants and plenty and the stars and the animals, how did God create? How did God create those things? God spoke and those things began to exist. With humans, God did things differently. The Bible tells us that God formed Adam from dust and created Eve using a rib from Adam. God made you and me differently. We're different. How did He create people? God created people in His own image, and He loves us. But what exactly does it mean to be made in God's image? Right? Did God stand in front of a mirror and draw Himself? Does it mean that we look just like God? What do you guys think? Right? Being made in God's image is not really about how we look, right? It's not about how we look, but being made in God's image, it is about who we are and what God created us to do. See, when we say God created us in His image, it means that we have many similar qualities to God and that He made us to be like Him in some ways. Not in every way, but in some ways. He gave us creativity so that we can express ourselves through art and music and talents. These are the characteristics that makes us very different from the rest of creation. God gave us these qualities so that we could glorify Him in unique ways. We can use our intelligence and our emotions and creativity to think about, love, and worship God. That's what God made us to do. God made people. And how did He create us? God created people in His own image. Can you say that with me? God created people in His own image. Say that again, last time. God created people in His own image. God created both Adam and Eve in His own image. That means that as men and women, while they're different, but they're both valuable and loved by God. At first, people had a perfect relationship with God. But sadly, things did not stay perfect forever. Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and sin, meaning they disobeyed God, so sin entered the world. And now people are now born separated from God. See, God created people in His own image, and He provides for everything He made. And God gave Adam and Eve a garden to live and food to eat. And people are special because God made people to live forever in a relationship with Him. And through His Son, Jesus, we have eternal life with God, just as He planned. Our key passage again this week is the same as last week, and I hope you guys memorized it. Feel free to send it over to me. I would love to hear it. And remember, if you send me the memory verse for the week, I will send you something. Okay? If you send it to me, I will send you a gift. Okay, so if you memorized Colossians 1:16 and 17, it says this: all things were created through Jesus and for Jesus. That means everything has meaning and has purpose. For Jesus came to rescue us from sin and will return someday to fix everything that sin has broken. And until that happens, we can trust God that everything exists by His power. Who is God? God is our Creator and King. And how did He create us? God created people in His own image. He created people differently than He created everything else because He loves us. Because God loves us, He made us differently. And if God made people differently, we should love others, right? If God created people differently and He loves people, we should love people in the same way. So that's the story of God creating people. What a beautiful story of how He made us different from the rest of creation. He created Adam and Eve differently. And since everyone was made in God's image, how should we treat one another? We should treat them in love. There's a few discussion questions that I want you guys to read through. If you are able to memorize the Bible verse, go ahead and record that on a phone and send it over to me, and then I will send you something. And there's a few activities that I want you guys to do, and videos for the week that I want you to listen to and understand God's story and how He created people. I love you guys and see you guys next week.